So I decided to record me running a marathon as a podcast. I'm not actually sure how good of an episode this is going to make. It's only going to be around 20 minutes long. But it just details my experience of running a marathon before, a little bit during, and after. So yeah, if you want to see a kind of like live video of the preparation before and the aftermath of someone running a marathon, then stay tuned.
Alright, so today I'm going to run a marathon by myself on some random Sunday afternoon because there's no marathons that are actually on, and it's something I've wanted to do for a long time and just never, I guess never found the time, but just like never had the balls to do it. And I thought, like, I wanted to get it done, so yeah. I ate Mexican food last night, which was probably a terrible idea. You're supposed to eat something stable. So there's a high possibility that I do shit myself at some point today, but that's all part of the risk. Woke up this morning at like 6:30, ate some porridge, and I went back to bed. It's now 8:48, so I'll probably leave at like 9. Quick 10-minute warm-up, head for it. I don't really have a time. Anything under 5 hours would be awesome. I just want to finish that distance. I'm not really too bothered about the time. I've got energy gels and gummy worms, and it's basically like a half marathon route that I done last week, and I'm just going to do it twice, so that should be fine. I got no one else to do it with me, so yeah, going to get a warm up and maybe speak about it while I'm doing my warm up. I always go running topless because I find I can regulate my body temperature better. Also, don't put deodorant on, because I read some research that deodorant actually blocks you from regulating your body temperature the correct way. So, yeah, you do look like a bit of a weirdo when you're running around topless, but it is what it is. And stretching for running, always best to do dynamic stuff. Just seems to be the better way to warm up your legs. You don't actually want them to be too flexible, but somewhat flexible is a good idea. And I always have a bit of honey and salt before I go. Then I've got my gummy worms and everything else there for me as well. So should be a good run. It's a good temperature for it as well. And then I'm going to update at every 5k today. Go from there. I've got the 2 Gatorades, sour squirms, and then just like lots of running gels, my phone, and then I got my keys in my pocket.
So be warned at this point that the audio is not great for the next maybe 40 seconds to a minute, and this is because at the time of me running the marathon I wasn't running around with a video camera or a camera crew. I was just using the phone camera and phone audio, so it's not so great, but it just basically details different kilometre milestones that I got to and how I was feeling at those milestones. But yeah, after it you get to see my reaction from finishing, and if you're watching the video episode you can see a very sweaty version of myself. Just over 13 kilometres, starting to get really fucking sunny, as you can see. I'll keep doing progress with it, but I've stopped for a second to get some water and a gel. Probably keep pushing through till I have a little break there and then continue on. But yeah, 13 kilometres, starting to get really warm. 32.5 kilometres in. Absolutely fucked my legs. So tight. We'll stretch out for a minute. Eat some gummy worms, continue on. That's 36 done. 6 more to go. Gonna get last energy gel. At this point, everything's just cramping up and I'm more of a waddle than a run. But I think that's what it's supposed to be like. It's the last ditch of it is just pain. So yeah, I won't lie. It's just a mental battle at this point. I'm not like out of energy, it's just my legs are really cramping up, so yeah, energy gel gummy on my way. Can't see anything on my camera, but that's me just finished. Whew. All done. I've got 200 meters to walk home, and that's me. All finito terminados. So chuffed. So that's me just finished a marathon for the first time ever, and I just thought I'd go over some of my thoughts with it. Prior to today, I had never done more than a half marathon, and like, I'm not gonna lie and try put people's hopes up. Like, it is really, really difficult, and especially that last like 10k is just fighting through cramps and everything in pain. It's not a matter of cardio, it's a matter of how much can you push through that boundary. So I think at half, that's when your legs really start to come into it, because if you do enough cardio, you realise that it's no longer your breath. You don't get out of breath anymore, at least on like long distance running. It's basically a fight of you against your legs and that pain. So around halfway, they were super, super painful and starting to cramp up, especially in like my hip flexors and my calves and my feet. Around that point were really, really sore. And it was just a case of knowing that like I was already halfway and that I just had to keep going. And after half, the next like 5 or 10k, yes, incredibly difficult, but at that time I put on music for the first time in my headphones, and that massively helped. Like some of my favourite music in the world, Safe by Monkey Safari, Time, Pachanga Boys, Inner Bloom, Rufus the Soul, like 8-9 minute long progressive electronic, just totally got me in the zone. At that point, like everything was really painful, but nothing had started to properly cramp until that point. And then maybe about 5 or 6k into the second half of it, that's when I started experiencing like real cramps. Like my foot would start cramping up and like curling up within my shoe, and I had to properly like take it out. And while in the first half it was between like 7 and 8k, between stretches and water breaks, it was now like 3 or 4. So completely cut that in half. But I think once I got to that point, like that kind of 2/3 point, when I had around 14k to go, it was just a case of knowing myself that I would never, ever, ever give up now. Especially because I told so many people, or not so many people, I told a lot of close friends that this is something I wanted to do and was going to do. And there's nothing like the social pressure of, I guess, people you care about to do something. I don't really know how to word that, but nah, I was never going to let myself down. I was never going to let them down. So there's this big hill around 30k in, and you're going up it, and it's a total struggle. Total struggle. And you just look like, to other people, because it's around this massive park, to other people you look like a maniac because you're just stumbling along at this point. I don't even know if you can classify it as running. Like my time slowed down massively. I was doing like 5-minute 30k's to start with, and then I think by the very last like 10k it was like 7-minute k's, or like high 6s. Anyways, once I got to that 3/4 point, that's when it really started cramping, so I could no longer like properly lift my legs up and down in like a normal running motion, because if I did, it would cramp all the way up my hamstrings and into my calves and so on. So I couldn't do that whatsoever. So it was more of like a shuffle along. And I don't think there was any point where I thought I was going to quit, but it was just, I was kind of riding the highs and the lows. So that final like 12k, there's a lot of times where just everything's incredibly painful and you're like, oh, when are we going to get through this? But you're already so far into it that you're never going to let yourself stop at that point. And then you'll have this little rush for like a k or a k and a half where you're just loving it. You got like that kind of runner's high. And people always talk about the wall, but I never ran into a wall. I think it was because of how I fueled throughout it. So I had 4 energy gels, I had 2 Gatorades, and then I had like gummy worms. And then every like
I don't know, like 10k basically, or like 7 or 8k, I would bump one of the energy gels, and then I'd have little gummies just kind of sitting in my mouth, like constantly releasing energy and sugar. And then it comes down to like that last 6k, and at this point, like my feet are barely lifting off the ground, and I'm just shuffling along, like everything's incredibly painful. But again, it doesn't matter. Like my mind at that point was thinking, like, imagine what people in like the army or the special forces, imagine what they have to go through for this, for their training. Do you know what I mean? It's nothing, it pure pales in comparison. So yeah, like there was a few points during it where I caught myself having that like feeling sorry for myself sort of thing, and I caught myself feeling that, and I was like, okay, well, we're gonna have to change that immediately. And then my mindset just kind of shifted to the point where I was like, no, it doesn't, like, pain is irrelevant. It doesn't matter, you're going to do this. It really could not matter less. And something I've been thinking more and more often is, and it makes more sense to me, is that like life's a video game. Like if you look at, this is going to become somewhat philosophical, but if you look at life on the grand scheme of things, like what, we live for like 80 years and then you die, and then there's, I don't know, many multi-trillions of years that have gone before and will go after us. So our life's but a glimpse, and like nothing's even real. That's the way I make sense of it in my head. Like nothing we see or experience is even real. Like that pain is just a sensory input. Like it doesn't mean anything. Like pain doesn't need to be a bad thing. It just is. And I think once I understood that, like it's so irrelevant that pain exists. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It doesn't mean you should stop. It just means it's there. And I think thinking about life as a video game just made it so much better. And then come to like the final 3k, pretty much just hopping along at this point. And I thought when I was going to finish that I would probably like break down in tears. You always see that in like people completing like marathon events and stuff, like that happens. And a marathon's been such a big goal of mine for a long time. Like I've thought about doing a marathon for years and years and years and years and years. And I don't know why now was the right time to do it, but it was. And I thought that would break down, but I just kind of finished it and I was like, oh, okay, well, like, that's that done. And it's weird, it probably brings up a larger problem, at least for myself, is that I find it hard to really judge my own accomplishments. Like I can judge other people's accomplishments really well. For example, if I had a friend that done a marathon, I would be there, I'd be like, oh my God, amazing, well done, congratulations, that's fucking banging, that's excellent. Take them out for a pint, some food and stuff, like I would be right there. But when it's me that's doing that exact same thing, it's like belittled in my mind. Like it doesn't matter as much, which is probably part of a larger problem that needs to be fixed, like not being able to realize your own accomplishments. But yeah, it's just the way my brain works. But anyways, got to those final few Ks, bashed out, done 42.3 just to be safe. And then finished with a total active time, which is like time running, of 4 hours and 13 minutes. But that's not total time, because that's like when I was taking water breaks. 4 hours and 35 minutes for a first marathon. And I'll absolutely take that. I'd say I'd definitely recommend it to people to go and do, just to kind of shatter your own perception of what's possible for you. Because a marathon I built up for so many years thinking that it was impossible, and then I just went and done it on a random Sunday morning. And I think a lot of people probably could do it. It's just a matter of like how much pain you want to put yourself through, and if you want to put yourself through pain in the first place. But yeah, like I don't know if this makes what of a good podcast, but this is where I'm at. It'd probably be good if I interviewed someone that was also doing a marathon or at marathon events. But here we are. That was my thoughts on completing a marathon on a Sunday afternoon at the end of February.
So yeah, all in all, that was my experience. It's now a day later and I'm recording this voiceover. My legs are incredibly sore, and I was landscaping today, so walking around like a little baby giraffe, trying to do things with messed up legs was a little bit difficult, but managed it all in. Overall, I'd recommend doing one, just like pushing yourself to prove to yourself that you can do it. I never thought I'd be able to do it, and here we are a day after, and I've managed it. So yeah, go out and do it, and if anyone's got any questions, got my socials, contact details are below, throw me a message over, I'm happy to help. Thank you for listening.